Nana Kumia and Mr. Kujeto Blakwa, Honourable Member of Parliament for North Tongue, are our guests. Okay, let's start with Parliament. The Speaker was impressed upon to use his discretion to recall Parliament for 2 days to conduct some 22 odd items of business. He looked at it, said, no, I won't do that. We're not calling people back from their campaigns. Come and sit for 22 items of business, which in his opinion cannot be concluded in 2 days anyway. Nana, there are some who suggest that, I mean, even the call on him to recall Parliament was unrealistic because it's a little too close to the election. Thoughts?
Thank you, Kojo. Let me wish our listeners a good Thursday morning. It's an exciting period. The general elections are just around the corner, and the whole country is geared up. Now, yes, I agree with the Speaker's discretion in this matter. The timing is a little difficult for members of Parliament to stop their campaigns at this time. Voting actually starts on Monday with the special voting, I think.
Yeah.
So and I've been a member of Parliament before. There's special voting. The MP wants to be there to ensure that his or her agents are there, and so the timing is going to present difficulty to members of Parliament actually reporting to do the work of Parliament. I can understand the anxiety of the majority leader because there are quite some critical issues that are pending. The free SHS bill is pending. Everybody says they want to protect the free SHS. Even the NDC's John Mahama, despite the pronouncements that he has made, which he hasn't renounced, he says that he wants to protect free SHS. So there's a bill to write the free SHS into law. But for me, what is even more important is the amendment to the environmental bill that is going to stop mining in forest reserves. For me, that is a key one. That instrument has to be laid and has to be in Parliament for 21 days. And it's critical as far as many Ghanaians are concerned. There's also some tax exemption for some factories that are going to set up. I think about $300 million worth of tax exemptions. That is also going to be outstanding. There are also some grants that are coming in to support the government budget in Q4, the last quarter, which needs parliamentary approval. There's also the budget itself that can allow government to spend from in the first quarter of next year, January to March. Otherwise, government will not have the authority to even pay salaries. And all of those things have to be, there's a lease agreement that can allow lithium mining to start and so on. But like I said, the timing, these are big issues. And I don't even know if you can deal with these issues in 2-3 days. You need quite a bit of time. But fortunately, the elections should be over by the 9th of next month. And between the 9th or the 10th, Parliament can easily secure some 3 weeks, because Parliament can actually sit on Saturdays. Parliament can secure some 2.5 weeks before the Christmas season break to deal with these matters on an urgent basis. So it could have been a more regular sitting, but under the circumstances, there's still some time to sit and deal with these issues after the elections.
Yeah.
Let me also conclude that all of these difficulties were just because the Speaker, Bagbin, did not obey the Supreme Court ruling, and so we have all this difficulty. But that's what under the bridge.
Which ruling?
Ruling that he should stay execution of his directive.
Did he not obey?
No, he didn't.
So he executed his directive?
Yes, otherwise why do we have this on pass?
Wait, you're saying that those 4 members of parliament are not members of parliament currently?
They are.
Then he didn't.
Yeah, but why they
disobey? Did he?
Why do you think there's an on pass?
Well, I mean, you tell me. Some
Okay,
say.
Let me tell you.
Some say that it is actually because of how much time Alexander Afenyo-Markin debated where he and his colleagues should sit.
Yes, but that is important. You can't sit anywhere in Parliament.
Yes, he says it has spiritual connotations.
Whether spiritual or physical, you cannot sit anywhere in Parliament. You never.
Why not?
Because everybody has their name tags on their seats. So even when you are speaking in Parliament, if you and I are MPs, and my name tag is on where you are sitting in the studio, and I come and stand, you come and sit there and talk, you'll be asked to go to your seat.
By who?
By the speaker.
Okay.
And you where you also sit, Parliament is divided into 2 halves. Which half you sit depends on whether you are a minority or the majority.
This is by law or by convention?
Yes, it's by convention. You just don't go and sit anywhere. If the NDC is on this side, I cannot go and sit there.
Nana,
and they are name tags.
Nana, is that more important than the
bills,
the numerous bills you've mentioned?
It is
the tax exemptions that need to be passed, the repealing of the what's it called, the LI 2462 that allows for mining in the forest reserves. Are you saying that where MPs will sit is more important than these important 22 bits of business?
I have told you, you cannot sit anywhere. Why would the NDC decide to go and sit in places of some other people? Why?
In the end, is it more important?
But why would you allow that? It is absolutely important.
More important.
Absolutely important that we do things properly. Like I said, even if you went and sat in somebody's place and you stood up to speak, you'll be asked to go back to your seat. The speaker will say, go back to your place and sit and speak. So you can't just sit anywhere. I mean, and all this business of people sitting at other people's places, it's all because of the speaker not giving clarity to the ruling from the Supreme Court.
Okay. Mr. Okudzeto Ablakwa, so now here we are. Parliament, that is supposed to be such an important institution in the governance of our nation's affairs, has been rendered redundant for this period just because adults couldn't agree on, among many things, where to sit. Does your side of the house feel at least a little bit responsible for how much time has been wasted and how many opportunities to do important business have passed under the bridge?
Hi, Kojo. Good morning to you once again. Good morning to Nana, and good morning to all the distinguished listeners of Joy FM. Sincerest apologies that I'm not in the studios today. Greetings from the 4 regions I've been touring since Monday. I have done the Ashanti region, the Northern region, the Savannah region. I'm speaking to you currently from the Bono East region. We had a great rally last night in Pru East, the Pru East constituency in Yeji, where our parliamentary candidate, dynamic young man, Emmanuel Buam, is poised to take over from Dr. Kwapna Donko. So it's been great here. We have no doubt that the Ghanaian people are going to vote for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and the NDC is going to win next week's election, and we will reset Ghana and put Ghana back on the path of prosperity and opportunity for all. So it's been great out here, and I'm glad to be speaking to you from Bono East this morning. Having said that, to respond to your question directly, let's be honest. As political leaders, this whole episode is regrettable. There's so many important issues that have not been addressed, have not receive parliamentary attention because of this needless stalemate, really needless impasse. And to be very honest with you, if Afenyo Makin and his side had just respected the institution of parliament, the authority of the speaker, the precedent that we have always worked with. I mean, Speaker Bagdin's ruling on this matter, which Afenyo Makin, remember, even sought to prevent. He sought an injunction to prevent the speaker. This has never happened. To have a member of parliament and a leader in the house seek a court injunction to prevent the speaker from carrying out his constitutional mandate. Never happened. It undermines the authority of parliament and the principle of separation of powers. And it is sad that it is MPs who, knowing that parliament is a master of its own rules, will rush to the court because they know that the speaker will have to follow precedent, because parliament is all about the constitution, our standing orders, and precedent, the conventions that have evolved. And Speaker Bagdin had to adhere to that precedent that has been set, the doctrine of stare decisis. Professor Okwe was the last speaker who ruled on Article 97, and Speaker Bagdin was obliged really to follow the precedent. All speakers in the history of the Fourth Republic have taken the same view, the same interpretation of Article 97. So we are where we are because of the lack of principled politics, the politics of opportunism. When it doesn't favor you, it's wrong. When it favors you, it's right. And that is the kind of politics we need to really eschew. I mean, I bet you this whole matter would not have arisen if the speaker's decision on the vacant seats did not tilt the balance in the House. If the MPP MPs had enough MPs on their side, and it would not have affected who is majority or minority, nobody will have been rushing to the courts. So that should tell you that this is all about lack of principle. When Speaker Okwe gave the same ruling, where was MP Afenyo Makin? Why didn't he head to the Supreme Court at the time? They all hailed Professor Okwe, said it was a great decision. Honorable Esiama should vacate his seat. He should leave immediately. It is an automatic principle. The principle of automaticity must apply.
Well, I mean,
now, because it tilts the balance, you have to become minority. Suddenly, you don't agree with it. You know, the politics of lack of principle, double standards, and hypocrisy. So that's where we are now. And to be honest with you, this whole matter could have been addressed with more maturity, more finesse, and it is sad that as leaders, as adults, we couldn't really just allow precedents, the Speaker's authority, the authority of Parliament, you know, as an institution. And now here we are. So you notice that all of what Afenyo Makin did, what has he achieved? Because we have a situation now where the Chief Justice cannot convene Parliament. She cannot come and sit in the chair, you know, and grant Afenyo Makin all his wishes, as he's been doing, running to the courts at the least opportunity. You know, so it tells you that right from the get-go, wisdom, maturity, principle, you know, consistency ought to have reigned supreme. That should have prevailed.
Yeah,
that will have avoided the current mess.
Mr. Okudzeto-Ablakwa, I mean, you talk about, you know, the need for wisdom and maturity, but there are some who will also suggest that a lot of this delay comes from the behavior of the minority, who insisted, even after the Supreme Court had granted an injunction, insisted on acting as the majority and occupying the seats of the majority, and you know, doing this march past, you know, playful thing on the floor of Parliament, you know, saluting your leader and, you know, singing and dancing. Some would suggest that is the epitome of a lack of maturity.
Well, I mean, people are entitled to their opinions. at the end of the day, remember that during that parliamentary recalls, two of those recalls, the MPP side failed to come to parliament. And the irony is that they triggered the recall. You trigger a recall and you fail to attend parliament. Look, it doesn't matter where we sat at the beginning. You can still come to parliament, bring formally to the attention of the speaker whatever you think you have obtained from the courts, and then allow the speaker to vacate his ruling and decide on how order should prevail. It is wrong to trigger a recall and then you don't show up totally on two occasions. So, I mean, really, you can say all you want about who went to parliament first and who went to sit where and all of that. But it is unpardonable, first of all, for the authority of parliament to be undermined in such an unprincipled manner. And then after that, you trigger a recall twice and then you don't show up at all. I mean, they could have come to parliament. And the sad part is that they were hanging around. You remember the episode of Honorable Katie Amon when the speaker adjourned the house and we stepped out. They were out there, waiting to beat us up. You saw the video of what Honorable Katie Amon did.
I don't think that is a very fair characterization. We didn't see evidence of anyone waiting to beat anyone up.
He was most unruly. You saw the video.
If you're describing unruly behavior, what about the march past behavior on the floor of parliament?
Look,
how would you describe that?
March past, did that attack anybody? It was not an assault on anybody.
Was it not a taunting of your colleagues?
Oh, you are concerned about taunting. I mean, you do know that in parliamentary proceedings there are light-hearted moments. It happens on both sides. The other side, on many occasions, will rise up, sing all kinds of chants that will taunt us. This has been going on back and forth. You know that.
But is it appropriate in a situation where you are calling for maturity?
Well, I mean, it's a fair point to make. The maturity I'm calling for should have really been exhibited long before that development in the chamber. This matter should have been addressed at the level of leadership. Article 97, the precedent should have been respected. And then we agree on the roadmap moving forward in terms of the urgent matters. Right. I am even concerned as we speak about what happens to workers' salaries next year, January, February, March. We ought to have approved long ago, many weeks ago, the budget for 2025, the first 3 months. That's what you do in an election year. And surprisingly, that didn't feature in Afenyo Makin's request. Okay. What was number one for Afenyo Makin is tax waivers, something that we should not be supporting. They have failed to listen to reasonable voices in their midst, like Honorable Kweku Kwating, who has said that these tax waivers are really a drain on the economy. We're running this economy like a Ponzi scheme, as he says, and that we are getting no value. It continues to cause major revenue losses, and yet that is what is number one.
Okay, I appreciate the point you've made, and we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will hear from both of our guests on our next issue. What role should the military be playing in the conduct of our elections? We've already heard some comments from the Ghana Armed Forces. They've sparked controversy. But what is the right way to proceed to ensure that we can have peace and stability throughout this period? Stay with us. We'll be back after these. Amia campaign and Samuel Okudzeto likewise the Honourable Member of Parliament for North Tongue. All right, our next topic is about the military's role in our upcoming elections. Now, I'm sure you all remember this.
I am telling you here that I will only come in this 7th December within the Achimansa enclave when police tells me that they cannot. And when I come, I will not talk. I will beat you and the hell will you. I always want people to try me. So those of us seated here, any of you can try me on that day, or try any of my men on that day. When you go to the polling station, just cast your vote, go home, go and sleep. When it is 5 p.m., come. They will tell you where to stand. They will count for you. If you win, clap, go home. Then you will not have any problem with me and then my people. We are not going to sit down for just 2 or 3 people to distort the peace. That's then my people. We are not going to sit down for just 2 or 3 people to distort the peace that Ghana is enjoying.
All right, now following that, the Ghana Armed Forces has reassured Ghanaians of their neutral and limited role in the upcoming December 7 general elections, addressing concerns raised by some stakeholders about potential military deployment to polling stations. They've clarified their position, emphasizing that soldiers will not be stationed at polling stations during the election. Instead, their involvement will be strictly in support of the police and only when requested. This is called from a City Newsroom story. Let's come to that. Nana, I know you might want to make a rebuttal to the earlier comment, but you'll have to restrict that to the first minute or so of your
Sami Okudzeto's sentiments are terribly unfortunate. Clearly, he's dogged himself into a partisan hole, and it's difficult for him to come out of the partisan hole. And then you look at the unpalatable words he's using against one side, that one side's action is needless, and they haven't then shown respect to Parliament and the Speaker, and they lack principle. They're showing double standards and opportunism. Actually, these same words better describe the NDC and their action. Let's take 2 minutes to just examine. Look, when an interpretation of the Constitution is sought in the Supreme Court, how does that amount to a disrespect of somebody? The democracy that we are practicing is built on the provision that when there are disputes, instead of taking arms, we should go to the Supreme Court and seek an interpretation. That is what our democracy is built on. Otherwise, we'll be fighting every day because there are disagreements every day. And how does taking that route for a peaceful resolution of a dispute, how does that amount to a disrespect? So when the political parties go to the Supreme Court over election petition, is that disrespect to the Electoral Commissioner or the Electoral Commission? When Ghanaians take executive actions to the Supreme Court, is that disrespect to the president? Unless these people do not understand the democracy that we have, there will be disputes over interpretation. All of us have different interpretation. How do you resolve it? Don't go and beat somebody because you disagree. Don't go and cut somebody because you disagree. Go to the court. So when you do that you are following the rule of law. You are not showing disrespect to anybody. And people with that mindset, they rather come here and say somebody is showing double standards. How is that? And what is maturity? When the Supreme Court has ruled on a matter, maturity is that all of us follow it. That is maturity, the most basic maturity. If you can't follow it, then you are rather accusing another side of immaturity. You go to Parliament and go and sit on other people's sides, like small boys in a primary school. Why would you go and sit on other people where other people should sit? Why would you go and sit there? When I came into your studio, can I go and sit at where your console controller is? Because I fancy controlling a console. You sit at a place which is designated for you. And you go and sit at other people's places. And then you say that you are displaying maturity. And the people whose seats you have usurped, they are immature. I don't understand it. Even the president's actions is subject to Supreme Court's interpretation. And this is not the first time. Parliament's actions have been subjected. Look, you remember Jerry Rawlings? When Ghanaians disagreed that he was using public funds to celebrate a holiday, they went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, Mr. President, you cannot do that.
Now you have
Was
just
that
1 minute
disrespect?
left. You haven't touched on the issue itself yet.
So, please, let's be objective, let's be truthful, let's be principled. You hear him talk about something, what? Precedent. What precedent? Do you know of Tenyanu? He's also a president. He declared that he wasn't going to stand on the ticket of the NDC, he was going to go independent. But he stayed in Parliament. He's also a president.
Yeah, but nobody raised that question.
Yeah, but he's also a president.
Yeah, but nobody raised that. I mean, this has been raised with the
because, and in the other one, nobody raised the matter. Same.
In this case, someone is.
In this case, somebody has
yes.
raised it. Yes. So you can't say stay at president, because if you're going to stay at president, there are other presidents. That's what I'm saying. So please, let's be objective, and let's stick to the rule of law, not the rule of men. Huh?
No, I'm afraid
Now
your
business
time is
of
up.
this. I don't have. Look, we are going to an election. Generally, this election will be peaceful. Our elections have generally been peaceful. There have been flashpoints, and we need to contain those flashpoints. Generally, the police is responsible for security and maintaining order during voting days. When a particular place there's extraordinary disorder, unruliness, they would sometimes call in the military and also some of the allied security forces, even immigration, even the prisons. They are also called in when the police numbers fall short, including the military. The bottom line is that those of us who are voting, we should be educated. In fact, generally, 95% of us are, that there's a process for voting, there's a process for counting, there's a process for the entire electoral process. We just must follow the process. And those on the other side who have to maintain security, they must also have in mind that no matter the aggravation or unruliness of any group of voters, they also have a code of conduct. So we, the voters, should have a vote of conduct. We should be educated on it. Don't go and snatch ballot boxes. Don't go and prevent other people.
At polling stations?
When it is necessary, if you listen to the officer that you played, he said that when we are called upon, ordinarily they are not to be involved. This is a civilian process, but they will be called upon when the police believe that a particular situation was getting out of their hand and they didn't have the numbers to contain it. But even then, like I said, once all of us have a code of conduct, whether once you're a member providing security for the process, there should be a code of conduct.
So if at a flashpoint things get out of hand and military is called in, would you expect them to use force?
Oh, there have been many cases where military people have been involved in a flashpoint and they didn't even use violence. In fact, in one or two that I have observed over the period, when people are being unruly and disorderly, and they see soldiers coming, they run away.
Okay,
I've seen many such. But looking at the experiences, those people that provide security, including the military, should have a code of conduct. Okay. We also who are voting should also have a code of conduct.
I have to bring in Mr. Kujata Blakwa at
okay.
this point. Same issue. What role should the military be playing in our election, if any?
So, Kojo, let me come to that in a jiffy and just quickly say that I insist that when a speaker is about to deliver a ruling, allow the speaker to deliver his ruling. Don't engage in the kind of conduct that we saw the Honorable Afenyo Makin engaging, seeking to prevent the Speaker from delivering his ruling, and even undermining the court's own order about how Parliament should be served. Because remember, it's a constitutional issue as to how you serve court processes on Parliament. And then all the verbal attacks on the Speaker that followed, calling him a dictator and all of those, unsavory language. I insist that it was all unfortunate, unacceptable, and totally needless. Now, on the military, Kojo, let's be clear. The military has no business in elections. We must all protect the image of the military and the sanctity of the Ghana Armed Forces. They have been misused and abused for far too long. This brings me to the unresolved killings of the 2020 elections. And you remember that others from where we still do not know as a country, the military moved in Techiman and started firing. We saw the footage. In the process, people died. As we speak, the 8 people who died, who were gunned down, killed, largely by people wearing military uniforms. We do not have justice for those people, for their families. And we are going into another election. How did this happen? 4 good years. We were promised investigations. We were promised prosecutions. It hasn't happened. Don't you think that is going to lead to impunity, where people will want to give orders for the military to move in, once again, shoot and kill, and they know that they will get away with it? There will be no accountability. So I am totally disgusted at what we allowed to happen in 2020, and the signs are clear. You are seeing that top military personnel, and I like the audio you played. That audio ought to be condemned. A military officer does not talk that way, saying that he's going to be beating up people, and he encourages people to come, and dare him and provoke him. He just loves to beat people, and he's bragging that in a difficult situation he will shoot and kill and take your food, and he will have food to eat. I mean, very, very horrible stuff.
But
I'm surprised that.
May I ask, Mr. Blakwa, in a situation where we've called in the military because the police has, or whichever other service has failed to maintain chaos ensuing, do you not reasonably expect the military to use force to restore order?
By shooting and killing people?
No, he didn't say that.
Extrajudicial killing?
He didn't say he will kill anyone.
Go and listen to the full tape.
He didn't say he will kill anyone.
He
says he will beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, he'll beat the hell out of them. And when you play the full tape, you hear him saying that in a war situation where there are where there are difficulties and there's even a challenge with food, they can go around. They are armed. They'll if they see that you have food, they'll kill you and take your food. I watched that video with Nana Komia only last Friday on Metro TV. Nana Komia saw it. It was played on Metro TV, where he talked about shooting and killing and collecting people's food. Very, very distasteful, very condemnable. And I'm surprised that he's still, maintaining his command. Nothing has happened to him. So we are going to see more of the Techiman incident with people like that kind of mindset. Look, the armed forces should stay clear. They should stay away. The misuse, the abuse is too much. Why is the Electoral Commission walking around with soldiers? Why?
Of the Electoral Commission, let me pick your brain on the preparedness.
The Electoral Commissioner.
Right.
This has never happened in our history. So there's too much misuse and abuse. Look, there have been instances in recent time where they're even using the military to put land guard protection. Gas. All these things must stop. Right. Let's protect the image of the Ghana Forces, which is a very renowned institution, globally celebrated. So we do not want to see the military being called to move in, to shoot and kill, to arm twist and distort the outcome of elections, like we saw happen in Techima. We will not accept that.
All right, starting with you, Mr. Ablakwa, in just about 30 seconds, if I can pick your brain on your view of the EC's preparedness for these elections. Recently, they issued a memo restricting media access to the collation centers. They've issued a statement subsequent to that saying that they will consult GIBA and GJA in that decision. What your quick reaction to that? 30 seconds, so I can hear from Nana as well.
The Electoral Commission should not be restricting the media. All media houses who are able to cover should be accredited. That has always been the standard. Why introduce this new and how are those 12 media houses going to be selected? How are they going to be selected? So it's totally unacceptable. You don't fix what's not broken. We've been doing this since 1992. The media has played its role. And you see, the more you have media coverage, transparency, the media can go everywhere once they are accredited and no media house is restricted, the better for all of us, the better for even the image of the Electoral Commission. It shows that the process is open, it's free, it's transparent. You have nothing to hide. You are not determining who can cover and who cannot cover. So that they should have even consulted first. Why are they now going to consult after they put out that, statement which has been roundly condemned by everybody? And I want to commend the Media Foundation for West Africa and the GJA for promptly condemning that move by the Electoral Commission.
Thank you. Nana, on the same issue.
Yes. Before I come to that, just a minute. We are being told there were verbal attacks on the Speaker of Parliament. What verbal attacks? Well,
he's referring to the comments that Mr. Fenyomaki made characterizing the Speaker as a dictator.
Did you listen to the Speaker at his press conference and his description of the Supreme Court?
Was that what makes
him
a dictator?
I should have brought
the press conference, but yes. Are you saying that makes him a dictator?
No, I'm saying if somebody says the Speaker is behaving like a dictator, how is that a verbal attack? And they say separation of powers. I heard Okujeto. Has Okujeto heard of checks and balances? He should go and learn about checks and balances. Now, Samuel Okujeto seems to have something against the military. I don't think he has, but that's the impression that if he's not careful. We shouldn't give the impression that once the military is called upon, there's going to be shooting and death.
But it has happened.
It has happened.
On more than one occasion.
On more than one. But there have been also instances where the police have been involved in shootings. Even party goons have been involved in shootings and killings at polling at election day. You remember what happened to Kwame Nabatals? Where he was stabbed in Accra, middle of Accra. You remember what happened in Cheripodi? Where you had somebody supposed to be a member of the security drawing guns and shooting directly into a crowd. So we shouldn't give the impression that once soldiers come, then there's going to be killings and death. In any case, the soldiers would not be called if there is not an aggravation. And so if the police go in and they also exhibit behavior or response that we don't like, are we then going to call for the police not to be involved? So there has to be guidelines for all of us, voters, security people, so that the unruliness and disorder will be limited, and extreme responses would also be limited. But all of us have a role and a stake to play in these elections. Soldiers, police, security, and particularly with the voters and also the political parties. On the day that there was supposed to be signing of a peace pact, NDC was inaugurating some vigilante group in Kumasi. That kind of thing does not help. So all of us have a responsibility, whether as security or voters or political parties. And it is this collaboration that has enabled us to have elections that are the talk of all of Africa.
EC and the media, quickly, and then
I have
just 1 minute.
I have never understood the directive that there's going to be a limit on the press coverage. I have never understood that directive from the EC. I have never understood it. Maybe they have to clarify. I cannot imagine the EC getting into the mindset that they are going to restrict media coverage of public elections like we're going to have, or like we've had. I can't imagine.
To clarify, they say they are trying to manage overcrowding in collation centers.
Oh, are you sure? Are you sure they've issued a statement to that?
Yeah, that's what
really?
it is, actually.
Yeah.
Overcrowding at where? The collation center?
The collation center.
Where would the collation center be?
The regional and
Constituency
collation
centers.
centers.
So
Yes.
8 for the constituency, 12 for the regional.
Yes, but these collation centers, they are not done in a small room like the studio. They are done in assembly halls.
Yeah.
In fact, the national collation is done at, is it Independence Square?
The
That's
national
somewhere
one is done at the
the
EC.
EC's office.
At the AC's office. Normally, these are not done in small rooms. That you would say numbers of 10 media people with them. So, but you see, they should not give the impression that they intend to limit or restrict media coverage. In fact, they should be encouraging more media coverage. It's the media reports of incidents, and that has engendered responses by security that has made us our elections, the talk to elections in Africa. Media is key. I mean, if we're going to talk about the role and the contribution of media to our elections, we wouldn't live here this morning. So I would imagine that the EC would want more media. When there's an attack on EC officials in some remote polling station, it's the media who will report it first. So I don't know if that's the impression, that's their intention, but the impression is that they want to restrict press freedom and media coverage. And really, I don't believe that is the impression. And they should revise that directive if that is what it is.
All right. Thank you, Nana. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we get into the question of CHRAJ's report on the National Cathedral. Nakumia and Samuel Okudzeto Blakwa are helping us navigate the big issues on the minds of Ghanaians this week. Undoubtedly, CHRAJ's report on the activities of the Board of Trustees on the Cathedral project have certainly got tongues wagging. The report, in one instance, exonerated Victor Kusi Boateng, who was accused of having 2 passports. According to the report, that's not the case. He has 1. However, the report suggests that an institution with the experience should look into the financial activities of this Board of Trustees to determine whether or not there has been any impropriety. CHRAJ admitting that they themselves don't have the expertise to do audits, so someone must do it. Then the big one. They point out quite clearly that the procurement of the contractor for the project didn't go through public procurement. The trustees' response was that, well, they are not a public institution. To which, sadly, CHRAJ had to point out to them that, well, you are, and you know you are, because you contracted your consultant through public procurement. So what a pity that a board populated by such illustrious men and women would attempt to take such a position. The person who filed the petition to start all this was, of course, Mr. Okudzeto Blakwa. He's on the show. So your thoughts, first of all, on the CHRAJ report, which I'm sure you've shared on many platforms. But what are your expectations of what must happen next?
Yeah, Kojo, thank you very much. The CHRAJ report in many parts is very damning. This is an explosive report. CHRAJ has confirmed virtually all of what I have been saying about the National Cathedral project. CHRAJ confirms that this project is illegal. These are not my words, CHRAJ's words. That is illegal. And that the contract to Rebadi is illegal and void ab initio. CHRAJ is saying that the National Cathedral Board of Trustees failed to obtain approval from the Public Procurement Authority. And this confirms the response I got from the PPA when I filed an RTI request a couple of years ago. CHRAJ is also confirming in this report that the Board of Trustees did not seek concurrent approval from the Central Tender Review Committee in violation of our procurement laws. CHRAJ also says that when they carried out a field inspection, they do not believe that the amount of money spent, as at May 2022, the CHRAJ noticed that about 225 million Ghana cedis has been sunk into the project. And all they saw when they went on the field visit was a pit. So they are calling for two things, a forensic audit and a value for money audit. Now, the report also reveals that the contract sum for this project, contrary to what we have been told earlier, remember this project started at about $100 million. CHRAJ now confirms that having obtained the contract with Rebadi, the cost of the Cathedral project is a whopping, a colossal $312 million. Quite staggering. So this is a very damning report, and CHRAJ is saying that all the Board of Trustees should be subjected to further investigations and possible prosecution. I take the view that this Board of Trustees have been put in this quagmire by the President. Because if you read the CHRAJ report carefully, CHRAJ says that the President misled everybody. The communication was not consistent. He said that this was a personal pledge and that he had made a personal pledge that if God blesses him with an electoral victory, he will build a cathedral in honor of the Almighty. CHRAJ says that the way the project was put forth and how it started and how the President communicated and gave the impression that this was not going to be a public project largely created this quagmire which we now have. And so I really have a lot of sympathy for a lot of this eminent clergy who have been put in this state, and perhaps they should all have resigned en bloc. They should have followed the examples of Pastor Otabil, Reverend Sud Anaba, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, and Bishop Doug Hayward Bills. So that is the first part of the report. Very damning, very explosive. Then the second part, which relates to Victor Kusi-Boateng, his double identity and the conflict of interest concerns, which was a major plank of my petition to CHRAJ. Now, I hear people saying that Victor Kusi-Boateng has been exonerated. He doesn't have a double identity. And I'm asking them, where? Which portion of the report shows that the double identity criminal matter has been addressed and he has been exonerated? It is not the case. Indeed, if you read page 39 and page 40 of the CHRAJ report, CHRAJ says that the double identity matters are clearly criminal and that they are referring those criminal conduct to the Attorney General. Read pages 39 and 40. So
2 more minutes,
all of
please.
This
2 minutes.
propaganda out there.
2 more minutes,
that,
please.
Hello, pardon me?
So, you have 2 more minutes on the issue,
Okay.
please. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for prompting me. So on the double identity matter, read pages 39 and pages 40. Except that I have clear reservations when it comes to the double identity matter and the conflict of interest matter, CHRAJ just scratched the surface barely, and they were quite sloppy and shady and shoddy, to say the least. Because if you look at all the evidence I presented, why is it that CHRAJ decided to focus on only passport? How about the evidence I presented from the DVLA database showing that he has a driver's license in the name Victor Kusi-Boateng? How about the Ghana card database, the NIA database, which shows that he has a Ghana card in another name, Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi? How about the Electoral Commission's database? I presented evidence that in 2016 he was issued a voter ID card in the name Victor Kusi-Boateng, where he said he was age 40 years of old, and then in 2020, 4 years after, he becomes 50 years, issued another voter ID card in the name Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi. And remember that when he is operating as Victor Kusi-Boateng, he has a different date of birth, 7th September 1971, a different mother, a different thing. When he is operating as Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi, he says it's 30th December 1969, that is his birthday. And then he has a different thing. Now, CHRAJ is saying that for those criminal matters, it happened when he was a private citizen. CHRAJ got it wrong. Because if CHRAJ had paid attention to the incorporation documents of the National Cathedral of Ghana, they would notice that as a public official, he registered the National Cathedral of Ghana in the name Victor Kusi-Boateng with date of birth 7 September 1971.
Right.
Presently, current conduct, not an old private person's conduct. Then when you look at the diplomatic passport, which was issued for him to go do his work, it was issued in another name, Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi, not Victor Kusi-Boateng.
Right.
And the date of birth there is different from the Victor Kusi-Boateng date of birth.
Right.
So
your time is up, Mr. Blackwell. Sadly, time is up. I have to bring in Nana Kumia at this point, but thank you. Nana?
Well, it is good for a member of parliament to try and perform oversight over the use of public funds. And so Okudzeto's efforts are in the right direction as far as trying to look at the use of public funds in this cathedral project. And it's the duty of every member of parliament because they have the responsibility of oversight over the public purse. Now, he went to CHRAJ with his suspicions, and CHRAJ has come out with findings. It looks like the issues of double identity that Okudzeto took to CHRAJ, CHRAJ disagrees with Okudzeto. Okudzeto says there's further evidence.
He actually says CHRAJ didn't touch enough on it. They referred it to another institution for investigation.
Yes. Some of it CHRAJ touched on. CHRAJ made findings on the double identity. But if Okudzeto believes that CHRAJ didn't, or CHRAJ could have done a bit more on the double identity, that is fine. But you don't describe their work as sloppy because of that. You know, and some of the adjectives that he used to describe CHRAJ, because you've also praised the work of CHRAJ, aspects of the work. So if some aspects you believe they should have done more, just point it out and not try and use words that damn the institution. You know, and that is my point of departure with Okudzeto Ablakwa this morning on that. They've aspects of the report you say is good because you agree with those aspects. That's fine. But if there are aspects that you disagree with, just point it out. And if you have contrary evidence, you say you have evidence about a Ghana card and voters card and birthdays and so on, that you believe should also be taken into account. Just point it out and put out those evidence. But don't damn the institution, because it's the very institution whose other work that you are praising. Now, if there have been procurement breaches, not having knowledge of the law cannot be an excuse. If you are going to use public funds, you need to know the law when it comes to using public funds. You know, so if there have been procurement breaches, they have to be dealt with. You know, I don't have a problem. I'm sure the ladies and gentlemen on the board of the Cathedral will be aware and alive to their responsibilities, and if they engage in procedures that are not supported by the laws, the procurement laws and so on, why not? If there's going to be a forensic audit to actually establish the extent of not complying with the laws, I don't have a problem. Now we are being told by Okujeto that is the president's fault that some procurement breaches were engaged in. How is that? Is the president the one who superintended the procurement?
Well, the whole project was the president's personal pledge to God, which ended up taking seed money from the state resources, for personal pledge. Then, of course, there were all the questions around the money spent on it, the companies contracted to work on it, and now the trustees appointed by the president have been recommended for prosecution. Surely, the president should take responsibility for this mess, shouldn't he?
If you disagree with the use of public funds, it's it's your view. For example, I disagree with the use of public funds in the project. I believe public resources of land and so on have been committed. If you looked at the caliber of trustees, the individuals, the Duncan Williams, the Ota Bells, the Hayward Millses and so on, the caliber of individuals, what they themselves on their own have built for their churches across Ghana, across the world, those caliber of religious leaders could have built this cathedral, looking at the work that they've done on their own and coming together and pooling their expertise and resources, I believe. So I am not in favor of the use of public funds. So that is fair. But to say
what
that
about
the president...
promise that was made to the Supreme Court that there will not be public funds in the Cathedral project, and then the very next year, public funds were committed to it.
If the president or whoever went back on their word, you can point it out. But to say that the president is responsible for breaches by his appointees, the president appointed me to a position. If I went and engaged in breaches at where I was appointed, how is somebody now going to say that is the president's fault?
Does it not depend on what the president does now?
I'm saying that as you sit here, you are appointed by somebody to sit here.
So if I misbehave,
the person knows that Kojo here, I trust that he will do the work according to some of the provisions of journalism and so on. But if you did something that totally outrageous, and then somebody says, it's Kwesi Chum who appointed him, is that fair? Like Okujato is trying to do.
30 seconds to share amongst 1 minute to share amongst our two guests, which means 30 seconds each. I'll start with you, Mr. Okujato Ablakwa. Your final thoughts on the CHRAJ report. Do we have Mr. Okujato Ablakwa?
Hello?
Right, yes, there you
Hello?
are. Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so my final thoughts on the CHRAJ report. Immediately, the National Cathedral of Trustees and the Secretariat ought to be dissolved. CHRAJ has ruled that this is an illegal establishment. They will not continue to be receiving salaries. For 31 months that this project stalled and no work was going on, salaries are being paid. And I've looked at the organogram of the Secretariat. It's such a tax guzzler. There's so many people working there. We cannot continue wasting scarce taxpayer funds in this bankrupt, insolvent economy. So immediately, the Secretariat ought to be dissolved. The last time I raised this matter, the respected Reverend Joyce Ayi said that there was no basis and that they will continue to be working and drawing down salaries. The question I ask is, if you are building, you are having challenges, will you keep paying your mason, paying your plumber, paying your electrician? Are you going to keep doing that, till you are ready to continue with the project? So, look, now that it's clear that this is an illegality, there was no basis for awarding this contract to rebut it, breaching the procurement laws. They should not draw down December salaries, and immediately they should just dissolve that edifice. The whole secretariat should be dissolved, and let's at least salvage what is left.
Thank you. Thank you. Nana, what would Jesus do?
Jesus will give us a good election, and he will facilitate the victory of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, because the alternative, they only have complaints, they don't have solutions. Now, I think I'll just comment on the Metro Television matter briefly. It's a clear case of bailiffs backed by their security detail overstepping their bounds. So Metro Television owes some creditors. The creditors have secured a court judgment. The bailiffs and the judgment creditor are going to exact the judgment. It's fine. You go there, you go to the office of the company. But this is a media house. You don't interrupt a live programming because you have court processes to serve. They could have waited for the programming to finish, and they could have served their processes. That is totally unacceptable.
Thank you, Nana. And thank you to Mr. Kujeto Ablakwa. We appreciate your time.
But Kujeto, he says they will win. So why is he walking about all over the place there?
Campaigning for them to win.
He says they've won. They've won.
All right.
You've won and you are not sleeping.
You say you've won as well. Why are you still the
But that's why I'm here.
Thank you both. And thank you all for listening.